Yeah, no.
Great. Okay, so today's final presentation comes from the operation PROVS, prosodic variation and structuring. And I'm going to present a study which explores the role of phonetic variation at the segmental and suprasegmental levels in disambiguating linguistic information at higher levels of structure. And this study involves newly established collaborations beyond the Labex, notably with colleagues at the Université Catholique de Louvain, Lisbeth Degan and Anne-Catherine Simon. So I'm going to focus in particular on prosodic variation and how it helps solve ambiguity. So ambiguity is omnipresent in speech. As you may know, we can have the same phonetic sequence that refers to two different meanings. Famous example in French is the shoe, Cinderella's shoe, which might have been a shoe in fur, but over the years it became a shoe in glass because of homophony. And the problem is that for most people, those homophonies are solvable, so to speak, but it remains a major error source for ASRs. So you're going to listen to something. I hope you can hear it. So it's taken from a corpus we have at LIMSI. I'll listen now. Okay.
Pâques, c'est le chocolatier.
Pâques, c'est le chocolatier. So this sequence that you can see here on the spectrogram is actually comprises the phones, the following phones and the following sequences. And the actual at the word level, it's what it says is actually Pâques, c'est le chocolat. It's the title of the speech, and then it begins atier, etc. And what the automatic recognition system understood is Pâques, c'est le chocolatier. So those homophony problems are really major error source for ASR. And what we want to do is to use the known literature to propose new hypotheses and test them. So from the literature, we know that phonetic variation depends on the lexical status. So for example, in je l'évite versus je l'évite, in French, the L will be longer when it's a pronoun rather than when it is the first consonant of the word. We also know that phonetic variation depends on word frequency. So for example, we expect more reduction phenomena in more frequent words. For example, in repère, the first one, we are going to expect maybe more schwa deletion than in the second repère, which means there. And we also know that linguistic perception relies on lexical access. So for example, if I say c'est pas grave, I didn't pronounce the g, but actually most of you who speak French understood c'est pas grave because you understood from context and that you retrieve the word grave because you know this word in French. And finally, we also know that linguistic perception relies on phonetic environment. So for example, if I say jupe bleue with actually something that is devoiced, a p that is voiced, excuse me, because of the following b, it's easy to retrieve that it's actually not a b. I didn't say the word jupe, that doesn't exist in French, but actually jupe, that was mispronounced because of the following environment. So our hypothesis is to say that since there is such a relationship between phonetic variation and lexical status, we can use fine-grained variation to contribute to disambiguation in the speech signal. So what we are going to do, so what we did first was to explore discourse markers in particular. So discourse markers are very, very frequent parts of speech in all languages, but here we focus on French. And we looked at discourse markers because they are particularly interesting they are very frequent, but they also are grammaticalized from other parts of speech. So for example, j'avais alors 16 ans. Alors is a temporal adverb, but when I say alors tu viens, it's a discourse marker. It's a highly polyfunctional word. So for example, alors comment ça va is functions as a boundary opening, but when I say j'ai bien dormi, alors ça va, alors really conveys a consequence. And it's also highly multifunctional because when I say il y avait des chambres inoccupées alors, in alors, I convey cause and conditional at the same time. So those words are really subject to many, many ambiguities. And studies have shown that prosodic cues can help solve this ambiguity, but those studies have focused on one or two words in particular, alors in particular, and sometimes et. And what we want to do is to look at larger corpora to investigate this question that is also interesting because it's very representative of the phonetics-pragmatics interface and the questions it holds. So now I'm going to present the data and methodology. So like I said, we used a corpus called LOCAS, which comprises 42 soundtracks of 3 to 5 minutes audio files and a total of 4 hours of speech, and a total of 48 different speakers of Belgian and Metropolitan French, speaking in various speech styles. The corpus was also very finely annotated with manual annotations for part of speech in particular and for discourse markers. 13 parts of speech categories have been identified manually by specialists, but only 9 are relevant for discourse markers, as you can see here on the graph. And the last 3 categories had so little items in them that we regrouped them for analysis. Okay, so in total, we considered only 7 categories. And also the recordings were categorized into 3 speech styles according to the degree of preparation, those that we considered to be formal prepared speech, those that were less formal semi-prepared speech, and finally those that were very informal unprepared speech. Now, concerning the methodology, what we wanted to do was to compare between, on the one hand, discourse markers such as alors, et, donc, tu vois, etc., and all the other words in the language, so table, manger, anything you can think of. And then we wanted to compare another thing, the words when they are used as discourse markers and the words where the same words that are not used as DM marker, as discourse markers. So for example, j'avais alors 16 ans, which is an adverb, and comment ça va alors, where it's a discourse marker. And we wanted to look in particular at prosodic cues. And for this, we focused for now on preceding pauses, phone duration, and fundamental frequency. And parts of the results you're going to see here were taken from a paper that has recently been accepted. So the results are as follows. It's a preliminary study, so of course, we are going to go into more detail afterwards. But for now, what we can say is that the more the speech is prepared, the more pauses are to be found before discourse markers. And you can see that it's rather clear from the graph. We also found that phone duration plays a part. So for example, phones are usually shorter in discourse markers than in other vowels, than in other words, excuse me. So for example, okay, here you can see that when on the first graph, you can see that when words are discourse markers are usually shorter than other words in the language. And on the other hand, you can see that phones are usually shorter for a word when it is used as a discourse marker than when it is used as something else, a conjunction, an adverb, etc. And finally, we looked very quickly at the fundamental frequency, and we found that pitch reset is higher and more dispersed for vowel initial discourse markers than for all other vowel initial words. So here we compared only discourse markers with all the other words, and we looked only at vowel initial words, because we didn't have well, it's really a preliminary study, and we are going to look into more words and to broaden the search in the next steps of the project. And so to conclude briefly, I would say that in line with previous literature, we found an effect of a word identity on preceding pauses, phone duration, and F0. What we still need to do, like I said, is to analyze more parameters, such as all surrounding pauses, not only the preceding ones, and maybe also disfluencies, and broaden the search to words that not only begin with a pause for the pitch reset problem, etc. And we would like also to investigate the relationship between phonetic reductions and sociolinguistic metadata using ontologies from the Othello project. So basically, we want to combine the phonetic analysis with knowledge bases on the subjects who are talking in a broader corpora than locus. And finally, what we wish to do to achieve in the next steps after doing all that, we would like to extend our studies to DM functions. So basically, when alors is a boundary opener, or when it is a shift or whatever, we want to see whether we can find also regularities in the patterns in the phonetic reductions or in the phonetic cues in general. And we wish also to corroborate the results with psycholinguistic experimentation. And here, obviously, all ideas from all you are welcome. And I would like to finish, well, here you have the references. And we would like to thank the various sources for funding. And here are all the project collaborators working on this project. And thank you for listening to me.